Well, forget about Somalis being falsely accused of eating your cats and dogs. Looks like that was a bit of MAGA self projection because MAGA is eating their own today. And last night, Mike Lindell was the latest casualty of the MAGA wars in Minnesota. Minnesota Republicans defied their Lord and President and voted against Lindell, handing Lindell and the president a humiliating loss, which shockingly, Lindell is refusing to accept. Bet you didn't see that one coming. Well, Trump had endorsed Lindell and he commanded and ordered Minnesota Republicans to vote for him and nominate him yesterday in the governor's race, but they refused. They refused. Apparently, even they've had enough of the crazy. So, what does that mean for us? What does that mean for the rest of us? Well, for one, it means that Trump's pulling power isn't what it used to be, obviously. He is in full on lame duck status now. And it also means that Republican voters are demoralized and unmotivated, and the president can't whip them up, which all bodes ill for the Republicans in November, which of course means it bodes well for the rest of us. Now, I know what you're thinking and what you're feeling because everybody feels this. We're all haunted by the fact that every time it looks like Trump and the GOP are going down, that somehow by election day they pull it out and win. But that's not going to happen this time. It's really not going to happen this time. I was talking to a friend yesterday who was scared it might, and she said, we're still in a 50-50 country, so they could win. But I replied and said, we're not in a 50-50 country today. It's more like a 70-30 country now. And that's what makes this different. This is not that. And that's why Republicans won't be able to eke out a win in November. They just won't be able to. Only cheating and maybe some kind of military involvement could make that happen. But let's take a look at Trump's poll numbers, his approval ratings. And keep in mind that when we speak of Trump's approval ratings, we are talking about the GOP's approval ratings. So this directly relates and correlates to the midterms in November because Trump is the GOP, if you'll remember, and the GOP is Trump. There's literally no daylight between them. There's no difference between them. So the GOP will rise or fall with him. And right now he's plummeting, and so are they. Let's look at the latest Real Clear Politics poll of polls, the polling average. And today we have him at almost a record low of negative 19.4%. 2 days ago, he was at negative 19.6%, which is the all time high for this poll. So just a couple of tenths of a point off of that in a couple of days. That'll go back and forth a little bit. But here's what I want you to see there's 16 polls here, 10 of them have his approval ratings in the 30s. 10 of them are in the 30s and only 6 are in the 40s. Nothing I think there's one that's 44. Where did that one go? Yeah, down here. The Daily Mail, man, they always pump Trump. They really do. They always are much higher than everybody else. So is Morning Consult, and so is Rasmussen Reports, and yeah, in the Daily Mail. Those are the three big ones that are always much higher for Trump than everybody else. But this looks bad. This is really bad. And it's been going this way. It's been trending this way for a long time. Here are the trend lines right here. Now, look, if we go back to the left side of this graph to when is that? March of last year, after he'd been in office for a couple of months. See, right here, they're close. And it's here in March that they flip and he goes negative. So before that, obviously, if that's what it looked like today, the GOP would be looking really good for the midterms. But even here, where back then this looked huge, this was a 7.2% deficit for Trump. He was 7.2% underwater here. That was pretty big. But he had come up from, like tenths of a percent under, 1, 2, 3% under, popped up to 7 for a bit, and then it went back down. Here, he's at 2.4 under. So all of these in this range until we get to about here in about July of last year. where he's getting back up to 7%. But all before that, if that's where he was today, the midterms would be up in the air. It would really be a kind of a 50-50 country. But that's not where we are. Look at where we are. Look at this huge gap here. This is huge. This is 19.4. Here it was on August 1st, 19.5. And one of these days in here, oh, there it is. I'm going to get it 19.6. I missed it. Anyway, it's in there right around the 1st of August. So he had 19.6. But he's been at 19 underwater, 19 points underwater, since August started. This is going in the wrong direction for him, obviously. And if you look over here on the right side of this page, State of the Union, President Trump job approval, 39.2% is the average of all the polls. Is the country going in the right direction, the direction of country? Only 34% of Americans say we're going in the right direction. That is terrible. Now, this number is important. The generic ballot means they ask people who would you vote for, Democrat or Republican in the midterms this year. No name is attached to it. No candidate's name is attached to it. It's just generically which party would you vote for. And Harry Enton of CNN says that Democrats need about a 6-point advantage here to make up for all the gerrymandering cheating that the Republicans have done this year. And they're at 7.1. They've been at in the high 6s to 7 for quite a while now, for, I don't know if I'll say several months, but definitely several weeks, at least 2 months, I would say at least, they've been right around 7%, and they're holding there, and that is a good sign. All right, let's look real quick at some of the individual races. We have Texas. James Tallarico is ahead, 1.6%. That's good. I'm glad he's in the lead, but that ain't enough. That's not enough in Texas. I think if the election were held today, at that number, I don't think he would win. I think he needs a much higher number than that to cushion and pad for all the, everything is going to go on in Texas to try to push him underwater. So I would say he would need at least 4 or 5% advantage there before we could feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable with that. But anyway, at least it's in the right direction, and we'll see if that margin grows. In Ohio, Brown is just barely half a point ahead, so we'll have to see what happens there. It's probably same as Texas. He couldn't win today if that was the number. Okay, Michigan, we got a Republican, Rogers, up by 0.3%, 0.3%. So we'll keep an eye on that. Iowa, same. You expect that from Iowa. Although I have to say for Iowa, I think this is a very tiny margin for a Republican to have. You would think a Republican in Iowa would be kind of running away with it, but he's not exactly running away with it, which is good. All right, Susan Collins in Maine. The Democrat Jackson is ahead 2.3%, and he just took over from Graham Plattner, right? So that's good. That's good news. Believe me, the Democrats are good. I mean, America will be very happy if he wins instead of Plattner, because Plattner is a John Fetterman lookalike to me. I think he would have turned on the Democrats eventually and become MAGA. I really do. I think he had that potential. So I'm glad they switched, and I'm glad this guy's getting a little bit ahead. Now in New Hampshire, the family dynasty, the Sununu family dynasty, John Sununu is down 3.3%. So that's a little surprising because the Sununus have kind of ruled New Hampshire for, a long, long time. All right, we got a Democrat barely ahead in Alaska, 0.4%. So we'll see what happens there. At least they're in the lead. Florida, the Republican is up by 8.4% because they are brain dead in Florida. That's, man. Georgia, John Ossoff, man, he is holding well above 7%. He's been there for a long time. He's edging up near 8%. He is going to run away with it. North Carolina, I've been watching this race because, they have Tom Tillis there now. This is a really great story. Roy Cooper, the former Democratic governor of North Carolina, has been running well over 7% for a very long time, for several months. He's been up over Watley. So he's at 7.6 ahead now, which is great. Now, I mean, I just love the story because Tom Tillis and Donald Trump butt heads a while back. And Donald Trump said something that's like, I don't know, I forget what he said, but he said something insulting to Tillis. He tweeted something out, like I don't know, something like he thought he should resign. And Tillis got very offended by that. And he just got up the next day and said, all right, I'm out. I'm done. So I'm sure he probably thought it's a shoe-in for some other Republican to take his place. Trump, the 4D chess man who plans several moves ahead, uh, he didn't see that coming. He thought he planned one move ahead, and his move was get Tillis out of there and replace him with another Republican. And it looks like he's going to have a real strong Democrat now in Tillis's place. And I love that. I think that's great. All right. So as their poll numbers plummet, as the Republican poll numbers plummet, they're turning on each other, kind of like mobsters do when the heat gets a little too intense. And in this case, the disastrous collapse in the GOP's poll numbers is the heat that's getting too intense for the MAGA mob. These polls are like they're like nothing I've ever seen. I've never seen such a huge collapse in poll numbers in an election year. I mean, I don't remember ever seeing a president 19 points underwater in the 30s. The lowest I remember was in the mid 40s. I think Bush was in the maybe it was lower 40s, but I think it was mid to upper 40s most of his presidency. Anyway, usually everybody's running neck and neck up until the very end, but not this year. Not this year. They're beginning to eat their own, though. They're fighting with each other and trying to destroy each other. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is now trying to start a political party, a third way, an independent party. It's supposedly independent. They're touting it as a third way, neither Republican nor Democrat, but it's made up of all former Republicans, which is good news for us. MAGA Republicans, they're all getting together to create this new third party. And, it's made up of all these former conspiracy theory Republicans who haven't turned on their conspiracy theories. They still buy into these things. The only things they're denouncing, though, right now from their past are the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, but they haven't denounced or renounced their crazy nutcase wacko MAGA beliefs. So they're still holding on to those crazy beliefs. They're denouncing Trump, but not his MAGA positions on the issues. They still hold those positions. I mean, I heard MTG recently still spouting her nonsense about drugs and medicines and COVID and all that. So while they're touting this as some third way between Republicans and Democrats, it's really just more MAGA. It's MAGA without Trump. Now, Tucker Carlson recently hosted, here, check this out. Yeah, he recently hosted Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massie, and former counterterrorism official Joe Kent at his cabin in Maine to discuss launching a third party. And Greene posted that Trump betrayed us all and on his promise of no more foreign wars. She said, "We said no more foreign wars and we meant it and supported Donald Trump because he made that promise. But he's betrayed us all. Our commitment is America first for all Americans, right, left, and center. The movement has begun." So for all Americans, but the only people here around this table are MAGA Republicans. So it sounds like mostly the MAGA right. Listen, I don't care what they want to call themselves or how much they want to position themselves as some kind of third party and say it's for all Americans. I'm not an American first person. What I see is America first is terrible. It's terrible. I mean, it's like screw Europe, screw Canada, get rid of all our friends, stop doing the good things we used to do around the world. I hate America first. It's the most selfish political movement I've ever seen. Anyway, Carlson told his audience around this table that MAGA was betrayed and that it's time for a new path forward. Kent told the Young Turks that the group has been trying to talk Carlson into a 2028 presidential run. And Trump confidant, the ever loony Laura Loomer, fired back that Carlson wants to hijack the GOP. I mean, talk about self awareness. He wants to hijack the GOP like Trump didn't do that already. But the rupture traces back to two MAGA animating promises that Trump broke: no more foreign wars and full transparency on Epstein. I mean, I'll give him credit for being able to tear themselves away from the cult leader and admit that he has faults. I I I said this about Marjorie Taylor Greene when she, first split with Trump. That one thing I did like about what she was saying is she was saying, "Look, I had these principles, and I thought Trump was the man to bring them to fruition, but now I find out he's not. So I'm dumping him, and I'm going to stay with my principles." I disagree with her principles. I don't think they're good for the country, but she stuck to her principles over the man. So in other words, she wasn't, you know, sucked in by the cult, which is good. But after all is said and done, they still stand for exactly the same things they did before. So, what does this mean for the rest of us? Honestly, I hope they can get some kind of movement going. I hope they can get some traction for 2028. Because what I would love to see is them offering a viable alternative to Republicans who are fed up with the Trump party. Because then you'd have, I don't know who, maybe JD Vance, or I don't know, Rubin. Who can say 2 years out who the Republican nominee is going to be? I don't know. But whoever it's going to be, the GOP MAGA candidate. And then you'd have one of these people sitting around this table, perhaps maybe Tucker Carlson. You'd have them running for president as well from the American First Party or whatever they might call it. And that vote would be split. The MAGA conservative Republican vote would be split. And even if these guys could peel away 0.5% of the MAGA vote from the Republicans, that would be great. And it could make a big difference in the election outcome, because even 0.5% could make a difference. Remember, Trump won the popular vote last time in 24 by 1.5%. So who knows? Maybe it'll be 0.5% next time, and that 0.5% could make a difference. But I'd be willing to bet if they could get people like this working together, because these are all strong MAGA people that we know didn't change their minds. They didn't have a change of heart. They still believe what they believed all along. So they could peel away, I would guess, maybe 2 or 3%, maybe even up to 5% of the Republican vote, because they are that kind of Republican. So I could see a lot of Republicans being attracted to them, just because they aren't officially members of the Republican Party. And a lot of these people have wanted a third party for a long time. The Republicans absolutely could not win if this happens. If they put together a party and have some kind of credible shot. I mean, Ross Perot got what, like 5% of the, I don't know, but he got a pretty significant part of the vote. Maybe it was 10% even. That sounds a little high. I'll look it up and find out. But anyway, Ross Perot got a lot of the vote. If they could even get that much, that would really split the Republican vote in two. And we'd have a Democrat in 2028 for sure, which would be great for the country. So I say let's cheer them on. And I hope they make it. And I hope they siphon off a ton of votes from the GOP, because the GOP vote split into two different parties can't win. And that puts a Democrat into office real fast. But just one caution: we have to show up this November in gigantic numbers to overcome any cheating or games or National Guard they're going to send in, or military they're going to send in, or court cases they're going to file, or whatever they're going to do. We have to overwhelm the system. This in November has to be the biggest No Kings protest that we've had to date. It's got to be triple and quadruple in size of the largest one so far. All right. But I feel absolutely confident that Democrats are going to thrash Republicans in the House and even in the Senate, possibly. But we still got to show up. No more of this laziness that you Democrats had in 2024, where you just kind of threw in the towel and said, well, what can I do? None of that this time. This is an emergency situation this year. We really got to get out. Nobody can sit home. Everyone's got to vote. All right. Last time a lot of Democrats just didn't think it was important enough to show up. And now we have this big giant mess on our hands. All right. All right. That's it for me. I appreciate you watching. I'm Jonathan Burton, and I will see you again soon. Take care.